Hi, welcome to Art by Arnab. So the past few weeks were absolutely mind-blowing. I have got so many responses and so many likings, your feedback, everything in my art channel, and the journey is absolutely awesome. I must congratulate all of you and tell you that now we are a family of 100 plus subscribers. Congratulations to you all. So I have got different kind of feedbacks, and one among those feedbacks, one of the most prominent feedback that I was getting is people were telling me to do classes. Not conventional classes, but actually the classes which will break up the whole process of sketching into different parts. So what I have decided that I will be uploading in my tutorial segment of videos different sketch classes starting from very basic. You can start from zero absolutely, and you can go forward step by step into different levels of sketching. So in my forthcoming tutorials, what I have planned that I will be breaking up all this into different small classes, not very long but short classes, and we will continue learning pencil sketching in that way. Hope you will be enjoying my video. So all the best and let's enjoy. Welcome to Art by Arnab. So in this episode, we'll be learning about the drawing process, or rather the sketching process. I've already discussed about the basics of sketching, or rather the introduction of sketching. You can find that video in the link above. So in this class, what we will be learning is about the nitty-gritty about sketching, and I will also take you through the various techniques of the sketching process. So in this video, I will discuss how many basic styles or techniques of sketchings are there. So let's get started. In the last video, I have told that the sketching mainly depends on these three factors. Number one, surface details and light, pencil pressure, and the kinds of leads that we are using. More details about the class is available in the link above. So basically, here we'll be talking about 6 techniques of sketching. And also at the end, I'll be sharing with you a technique that I use personally in many of my projects. So that's a bonus tips. So stay tuned till the end of the video for that bonus process. So the first process that you'll be learning is called tonal. So tonal is basically simple tonal sketchings. For that, I'll be using the black matte pencil. More about this has been told in my previous video, which you can find above. For the tonal, I'll be using or starting with the 2B pencil. So let's get started with the process tonal. So tonal is not much complex process. It's rather a more aesthetic one. Here we are bringing the variation of highlight, midtone and shadows with a varying pressure of the pencil or the lead. So this process does not involve much skill, but rather how you look or study the objects. The main technique is in variable pressures, and also to keep in mind, all the strokes should be unidirectional. That means they should all flow in the same direction. The next process that we'll be learning is hatching, or rather hatch. So in hatching process, we will leave the highlight blank, and then from the midtone till the shadows, we'll be drawing parallel lines. So with the variation of pencil pressure and the parallel lines, we will be mimicking the midtones and the shadows. And that is how we do hatching. The next technique is called cross hatch. So in this process, we will be starting with minimum shadows, and we will leave the highlight blank as the previous method. But unlike the previous process, here, to define the variation in shadows, we will be using another layer of strokes in a bit different direction to create another layer of shadow or the depth of shadow. So say for example, this area has much denser shadow. So to mimic the denser shadow, we will use another layer of strokes, but this time in some different direction. So you see, the above is the highlight, and then comes the mid shadow area, and then comes the strong shadow. So we have brought difference in shadows by bringing different strokes in different direction. So basically that is how we do cross hatching. Even we can bring another layer of darkness with another layer of strokes in another direction. So this area's darkness become even more strong. So by cross hatching, we can bring multiple layers of shadow or the depth of shadows. The next process that we will be learning is scribbling. So say this is the highlight area, this is the mid shadow area, and this is the dark shadow area. So just like the previous two processes, we will leave the highlight and then we will start scribbling, random scribbling around the mid-tone area. We will continue this scribbling in the darker areas also. Now once we are done with the whole area, we will add another layer of scribble, but this time with a little bit more pressure. So that is how we define the darker areas in scribbling method. The strokes will be tighter and much more denser. So like the above process, the strength is over here, the midtones are over here, and the highlight is untouched. So this is another method by which we can define shadows, depth, and highlight. The next process that we will be moving to is called stippling. So this is slightly difficult. I won't say difficult, a bit more advanced than the previous methods. So like the same process, this is the highlight area, this is the mid-tone area, and this is the shadow area. But in this process, instead of doing strokes or scribbles, we will be just using points. So basically, we are stippling on the paper. So the technique is, depending on the density of these points or dots, the shadow midtones or highlights will be defined. Now I do agree that this method is more advanced one. It is more challenging, time-taking, and also need a lot of your concentration. So see, the mid-tone area has this much density of points. We can leave the highlight absolutely blank, or we can put a bare minimum points. But the points have to be really distant from each other. And if we observe carefully, the size of the points are also varying along with their density. So now we are going to the shadow area. So hence we are doing much more bolder points and much more denser points. As you can see, the dot size are gradually increasing and they are becoming more close to each other. So this is a bit more advanced method. I won't encourage you to start your sketching lessons with this process, but would rather suggest you to start with tonal, then move on to hatching, cross hatching, and then come into scribbling. Once you are done with those processes, then I would definitely tell you to move on to stippling. The next process is smudging. Now, of course, we are already introduced with this process in our previous landscape video. If you have missed it, you can find it on the link above. So in this process, we try to mimic the gradual conversion of mid-tone to highlight or from mid-tone to darkness with various methods of smudging. Let me show. I'll start with very light strokes. This is my highlight area, this is the mid-tone, and this is the dark or shadow area. I start giving gentle pencil strokes in the mid-tone area, and then gradually I increase the density and pressure of my lid in the shadow area. So once we are done with the strokes, now to bring it more near or close to realism, we will blend the shadows as we see in the real world. We will use a paper stamp to do this blending. So as in realism, the shadows don't have a very clear border, but they gradually blend into each other. The same thing we will be mimicking in this process with a blender. So now I have introduced you with the all different type of techniques or styles of sketching. Now depending on the subject that you are drawing or depending on the styles you are more comfortable with, I would suggest you to choose the technique that you will be using. But as I suggested in my process that you should follow the same order that I have told in my video. So you should start with tonal, then go to hatch, crosshatch, scribbling, stippling, and then come to smudging. Oh, and of course I know you are waiting for the bonus tips, so here it is. So the bonus tips is that you can apply different type of textures or material surfaces to mimic different styles of sketching. Here for the first example I am using a sandpaper. So this will actually mimic the texture on your paper. So how to do that? Let's see. To do this I will be using a thinner paper because the sketchpad in which I am drawing is much more thicker. So let's take a thinner paper. So let's keep the sandpaper beneath the thin paper and then simply draw a circle and then start adding gentle strokes of pencil or the lead that we are using. Once we have enough depth, we can also apply some amount of smudging. And voila! The texture of the sandpaper can be seen on our drawing. The shadow of the pencil strokes are actually mimicking the sandpaper texture. So we can use different kind of things to mimic this texture. Say for example, in the next one, I'm using my diary cover, which is basically a cloth bound hardcover. So I will put that in the same way as I kept the sandpaper, and here the diary, and above that I'm keeping the thin paper. So I again start with the gentle pencil strokes and watch carefully. The impression of the cloth is being reflected in our sketch shadings. So this particular cloth texture is being reflected in your sketch now. That's all for now. See you in the next episode with some more exciting sketching techniques. Until then, bye-bye. So that's all for this class, and hope you have learned a lot from this class. I don't know whether it's a lot or not, but I think you have learned something, right? And so what I say in all the videos, like, please comment and please let me know what you learned from this class, what you didn't learn and you want to learn, so I can incorporate them in my next classes. So keep an eye on Art by Arnab, watch the videos, enjoy them and learn from them, and as always, do the awesome artworks. Thank you.